Hello and welcome to the 8th virtual class of Creative Flow. My name's Kate Blair and I'm offering this class through Berkshire Yoga, Dance, and Fitness. And I'm so grateful you're here joining in. I also don't usually teach the class at night in the dark here. So, but I am doing this on purpose. And I hope you'll join me for this evening edition of the class. We'll be exploring a bit about how light and the absence or presence of it impacts our dancing. And I should mention before we begin that these classes are being very generously offered to the community through the studio, Berkshire Yoga, Dance, and Fitness. And really feel grateful for your participation. And if you'd like to donate to support the studio and teachers through this time, you can do that at the website supportbydf.com. And thank you for any contribution that you're offering, whether that's your participation and donations, and all of it is much appreciated. So, this class, Creative Flow, is an exploration of how different creative disciplines can inspire and inform one another. And it's an exploration that many people are undertaking in a variety of ways, connecting specific types of visual art with specific types of dance, or specific kinds of music with visual art. And in particular, through this class, this evening, we'll be exploring different senses, particularly the sense of light and dark. And that's why I'm experimenting with teaching this class somewhat in the dark here, with a little bit of candlelight and some light from the garage coming in. And so to begin, we'll always start our class just by checking in with ourselves and how you're feeling in this moment. And also, just as you do that, just noticing the quality of light in the space that you're in. And it's fine if it's different. It might be a bright, sunny morning where you are, or could be a cloudy afternoon, or you could be in all kinds of lighting situations. But just notice where you are, and perhaps tune into how you are relating with the light right now. Are you feeling like you want more sunlight or less light? Just notice for now, without adjusting anything. Just notice how you feel. If you do feel like you really suddenly need to adjust the light, by all means do that. But you also might just notice right now how you feel in relationship to the lighting. And just taking some time to connect also to your breath and how you're feeling, how your body is doing. I often close my eyes when I do this because it helps me to tune inward. So feel free to do that if it helps you too. And just allow your breath to come and go on its own timing. Just notice if there's anything calling your attention. can allow your eyes to soften in toward the back of your skull. And allow your shoulders to fall away from your ears as you allow your breath to come and go in its own time. As you notice your breath, you might notice again how the quality of light makes you feel. Even if your eyes are closed, you might still be able to sense the light around you. And you can sense the air. Perhaps you can also sense your heartbeat. Noticing the sounds in your space. Just bringing your body into a feeling of a dynamic stillness. You might be able to sense the tiny movements within the vast network of movements that are happening inside of you and outside of you. Just letting your breath come and go on its own timing. Just if you have any illnesses or injuries or emotions that need your extra love and attention, just bringing your awareness to that and making a recommitment to self-love and self-care through this class and throughout your life. Just allowing your breath to come and go. And you can gently open your eyes if they were closed. And just as I mentioned, just beginning the class always with a sense of taking care of yourself and noticing if there are areas of your body or life that just need a little extra love or a lot of extra love sometimes and attention, and knowing that it's a process of learning how to care for ourselves throughout our life. So thank you for joining in the class. And so I have been thinking about ways that my movement or human movement relates to the process of creating art, creating music, and how some of the elements that are involved in art and music are related to elements of dance and movement. And as I mentioned, many people have explored these topics and are making these connections right now. And I've had the gift to be influenced by many people's explorations in those ways. So I have been thinking about dancing with, I'm having trouble putting it to words, but because it's not absence to me, but Well, perhaps sometimes it is absence, but I've been thinking about negative space, and I wanted to just show this example of, you've probably seen this before, this artwork. This example of positive and negative space here. Let's see. And I believe, oops, just a moment. Thought I had it right here. So this is called Rubens' vase. And interesting, it was created by Danish psychologist Edgar Rubin. And so just to share, okay, let me just see there. This is an example here. Whoops. Yeah, you can see that one, not this one so much. The face or the vase. And perhaps you've, let me just cover that so you can see. Perhaps you've, here we go, seen this before. The face or the vase. You just notice which one you notice. And I guess when I look at that, I can focus on the vase and see the vase, and then it seems like the faces are absent, but they're there. And similarly, I could focus on the faces, and then it seems like the vase is absent, but the vase is also still there. And when I try to focus on both, it's possible, but it's a little bit difficult. If you want to try that, I'll just show it to you again. So you could try focusing just on the faces, or just on the vase. Whoops. Just a minute here. Or you could focus on both, trying to focus on both. Of course, your visual experience might be very different than mine. But I find when I try to focus on both, it sort of flips back and forth. It's hard to do. So I thought that we could explore this idea of negative space through movement, and also the presence and absence of different senses, not just through a visual sense, but through other ways of sensing positive and negative space. How would that translate to other senses, like our sense of touch or smell or taste? We won't explore all the senses, but I just wanted to put those things out there. So to begin, this class originally was a class that I imagined teaching with a bunch of people in a space together, sensing and moving together, and exploring how we listen to one another and sense movement as a group. So obviously this is a class I'm teaching virtually, and I'm by myself, so there's not other movers. So I was thinking about this one activity this evening that I thought, oh, it'd be so fun to do as a group of people. I've done it before and it is really interesting, but how could we translate it? So the activity, if you were in a group of people, would be kind of like making a human sculpture. And I've done this activity in a variety of classes taught by a variety of people. So we'll just do a variation of it, which would be with people, lots of people, it would be one person making a shape in space, any shape. Just moving your body into some position that you want to be in. So could be a movement like just making a shape. And then someone else would come in and fill their body into some of the negative space around me in some other way. So if I was here, maybe someone else would come in and put themselves right in that space between my arms, for example. Or someone else would come and stand back here and do something to expand the sculpture that way. So since we don't have a bunch of people with me right now, I thought we could try this as a duet with ourselves. So you can do this with yourself, I'll do this with myself. So I still would go out in space, make shape, and you don't have to run out, like come into the space again, but I just would notice the negative space around me right now. And then I would move my body again so that I'm filling in some of that negative space until I come to a new shape. So I let go of this shape, but I still imagine that negative space. Now I'm noticing the negative space around me again. And I'm going to move into that negative space now and fill it in. So the idea is to create some kind of form with your body. Notice the negative space, pause, and then fill in that negative space. Dance your way there. Then create another shape. Pause, notice the negative space, fill in the negative space with your own self. Pause, notice the negative space, and fill in the negative space. So enjoy giving that a try and see where that takes you. We'll do about 5 or so minutes of just exploring that. And as you're doing that, you can also be aware of the lighting in your space. If you feel like you need to do some adjusting of the lighting, feel free, or just notice the lighting and its effect on you. Following this exploration, we'll be working a little more with the light. So for now, just try this experiment. And as I always mention, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, doing movements that feel right to you. This is not about copying or following me. It's about your own exploration through this exercise. So we'll try that, making our own sculpture, freezing, noticing and feeling the negative space, and then filling it in until you find a new space. Just see where that leads you. Okay, I'll be exploring as well. You can allow your breath to support you as you move through this dance. So I'm going to encourage you to continue this exploration going, and this time just allow it to accelerate a little bit. Allow yourself to keep moving into those negative spaces. And there's no right or wrong about how you shape your body as long as you're taking care of yourself and doing movements that feel good to you. So there's no, you can do anything that fills in some of the negative space around where you previously were. So hopefully this is making a little bit of sense. This time just let your dance go a bit faster. We'll do this for a couple more minutes. Okay, and allowing yourself to bring that part of your exploration to a closing, and just reflecting for a moment on how that experience felt to you. I found it to be, well, I'll just give you time to think about how it felt to you. I'm eager to share because it was very interesting. So just noticing your impressions. So in that experience, I'm not sure if you experienced this, but I did experience a sense of dancing with myself in the past, or where I was in the past, and then trying to find myself or memorize that place where I was so I would remember where the negative space was. And it was an interesting dance. I found myself sometimes having to, in the faster version, just having to let go of my previous memories fast so that I could be present to where I was in space, and then, okay, now I have this opening or this place I could go to make the sculpture. So I'm not sure if that's how you experienced or if you can relate to that at all. Woo! Hi there, June bug. Speaking of presences, there's a June bug and it's dancing with us. Hello there, friend. So anyway, sorry, they're so huge. They kind of are exciting bugs to watch. So this class is also all about welcoming that surprise, and whatever happens, to go with it and learn to adapt to what's happening around. But also the sense of having agency in our own environment. So noticing the lighting of your space and perhaps changing it or adapting it to suit your needs in the moment. And I know that sometimes we've been experimenting with light. So I thought this time we could just take a pause from that exploration of negative space and positive space and just experiment with the lighting in your space and modifying it, adding more lights, turning off lights, but just, and if that's difficult to do, or if there aren't that many possibilities, just experimenting with a dance, some movement that reflects how you're feeling about the lighting right now in your space. Wow! The June bug likes the light. So we'll just take a few minutes to, modify the light, play, experiment with the lighting in your space, as well as your, how should I say, your feeling about the lighting quality of the space. There's just a car that went by, so I'm seeing more lights over there. So the elements of light that might be in or outside of your control, if they're within your control and something that you can do, you feel free to alter the lighting in your space in some way, or just appreciate and notice how it might be changing. Nighttime, where I am, the lighting is somewhat stable, but through the day, you can feel that and see that shifting of light. So whatever you're experiencing, just take some time to dance with the lighting in your space and see where that leads. And we'll take about 5 minutes or so to experiment and explore how to dance with the light and the dark in your space, how it makes you feel, altering it. Okay. You can also notice how you gravitate, where you feel like going in your space, if it has to do with light. Maybe you're like a June bug searching for the light, or maybe you're like another more, maybe you want to go towards the darker places. Just notice where your attention wants to go, where you feel like moving. How does light affect your movement? Or how can you let it affect your movement? might notice I'm dancing with some small candles here, but feel free to use your light switches and not, don't feel like you need to use candles or fire at all to experiment with this. And if you are, of course, be very careful, mindful of your exploration. You might just notice as you're moving through this exploration how the light draws you in or repels you. Again, whether your attraction is more toward dark or light. And might just allow whatever you're feeling drawn to evolve into a dance, a movement expression that could be very small and simple, or it could be more complex movements that you're doing. But just allow yourself to explore and experiment, and be careful if you're moving in a darker environment as I am. I just kind of bonked my leg a little bit, nothing major, but be careful, and move slower if you are moving in a darker environment. And just go ahead and allow your dance to express your feeling about the quality of light in this moment. And it could be a dance about feeling the longing for more darkness or the longing for more light. Could be a dance of contentment, but just allow yourself to express how you're feeling in relationship to the situation, the environment that you're in relating to light. And again, this dance could be very small or it could be more complex. Just allow yourself to move in relationship to light. And if you're in an environment where you can see your shadow or part of your shadow, or if you can create that, just try a little experiment of moving with your shadow, your actual shadow, or a partial shadow. If you can create that sense in some, or find that sense, where's your shadow? Where's your relationship to light and dark in that way? And if it's too bright or you can't quite create that situation, just allow yourself to continue exploring your relationship to light. And perhaps if you don't have a shadow in this situation, imagining your shadows there. Just let it be this dance to be a duet with your shadow, perhaps the negative space that your shadow creates, filling that in, and just see where that takes you. You might have more than one shadow. Just experimenting with almost a sense of playfulness with your own shadow. Or multiple ones, or the sense of light, just dancing a duet with the light around you. And bringing that part of your exploration to closing. And again, just taking a moment to reflect on what that experience was like, what it was like to dance with the light, perhaps alter the light a little bit or not. Just noticing your breath coming and going. what it was like to dance with your shadow, if you had a shadow to work with, or different ways of dancing with light and darkness, how you were attracted to perhaps certain lighting levels. So we'll just continue our sense of, I guess you could say, presence or absence or a sense of wholeness. Some of the senses and the ways of experiencing them, for me, are hard to put words to, and I think that's a gift in the mystery. And also a learning of how to explain or describe or express some of our experiences. And sometimes they are beyond that, explaining, describing, expression. So just take a moment to consider, I'm just going to list some senses, and just consider in your own reflecting what feels very present in your life when I list the sense. So I'm not going to, I'll just list a few of our many possible senses, just kind of the ones that are maybe more familiar. So when I say the sense of sight, for you personally, what have you been seeing? What have you been noticing in your daily life? And just notice what comes to mind right away. And then you might think about the negative space of that. So if you've also perhaps think about what you have not been seeing, perhaps some things that you've been longing to see. Could be all kinds of things. I'll leave it open. So just take a moment to reflect on that. Something you haven't seen for perhaps these few weeks or months. Okay, so considered a little bit about your sight, if you have power of sight and vision. We'll just do a couple other senses. So just take a moment and consider in your life what you've been hearing. What have you been noticing and hearing on a daily basis in these last couple of weeks, perhaps a couple of days? Just consider, what have you been hearing? And as you do this, you can just allow your body to recuperate and be comfortable, and noticing your breath coming and going on its own timing, and just sensing your sense of, what have you been hearing? And then again, just taking a pause and now shifting to notice or think about some things that you have not been hearing in these last few days or months. The negative space of hearing. So if you have your sense of hearing, just considering what you've perhaps been missing or longing to hear. And just take a moment to consider that. Okay, and of course we could do this with more senses, more than just the five senses. We could really go into it. But I want to keep us moving a little bit. So just out of those things that you considered, just recall perhaps one of the things that you did see or hear in the last few weeks that you noticed. And something you've really enjoyed perhaps seeing and or hearing. Just pick one of the things. And don't worry too much about it. Just see which one comes to mind. And then consider one of the things that you are longing to see or that you're longing to hear. And just take a moment to consider that. And sorry, I'm just noticing something going on outside late at night here. Anyway, carrying on. So noticing something that you are longing to see or hear, and something that you're enjoying seeing and hearing on a daily basis. And we'll just take some time to dance a duet with those awarenesses, that thing that you're enjoying seeing and or hearing, and that something that you're longing for. And as you do this, you can incorporate elements of the earlier activities we did in class. So the negative space, moving into the negative spaces that you create with each pause in your movement. Dancing with your shadow, dancing with the light, adjusting the light, or adapting to the light or dark. And of course, you can always bring in other elements from your experience of life or of this class. So we'll just take a little bit of time to experiment and explore with that and see where that leads. this duet between something you're hearing or seeing, something you're longing to hear or see. The image, let the image, the quality, the feeling of those experiences inspire this duet within yourself. Okay. Okay, and can allow that part of your exploration to come to a closing, and just notice how that dance, that duet, perhaps kind of a solo duet within yourself, of how did that feel to relate something that you are experiencing. You could call it the positive space of your life with something that you're longing to experience through your seeing, through your hearing, um, perhaps your other senses too. So just noticing how that dance and duet felt to you, if you felt like it was possible or easeful to express that through movement, or maybe that was a leap. Just taking a moment to reflect on that. And I think that it's an interesting question to consider. Other ways that the idea of negative and positive space could be part of other senses, not just a visual sense. Especially during these times where many people are feeling the absence of something, whether it's social connection or a physical, I have the June bug friend again, a physical, a loss of a loved one, or the loss of a usual routine, or something that's familiar is suddenly not familiar, lots of things. So thank you again for joining in to the class and this exploration of light and darkness, and moving with positive and negative space in a visual way, in a hearing and seeing way, and in a movement way. So I hope that's given you lots to consider and think about in your week ahead, creative week of life ahead. And we'll just close our class with a little bit of mindful breathing. And so you can go ahead and find a comfortable position to sit or stand or lying down, wherever you are. And just allowing your breath to come and go on its own timing. You can let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Your eyes can relax back into your back of your skull. Throat can soften and relax. Your jaw can soften and relax. Just noticing the space that you're inhabiting. You can allow yourself to notice the connection with the earth, whether that's through your feet, through your sits bones, through your whole body. Notice the parts of you that are in connection with the earth or another form of support. Just letting your breath come and go on its own timing. If your eyes are closed, just allowing your eyes to relax. And as we close our class, just making another commitment to yourself to self-love and self-care throughout this class and throughout your life, knowing that it is a process of learning. And if your eyes were closed, you can allow your eyes to gently open when you're ready. And thanks again for joining in, and I hope you have a wonderful creative week ahead. Blessings.